For editing the chronological effects, we're going to open up our 4 different images of our movement. So I right now have mine labeled as 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for this example, we don't actually have a background image, so we're just going to choose which background makes us happiest. Really, there's not much of a difference in mine except for the wind that is blowing. So I would maybe just choose one that might not have any distractions. If you see someone in the background for one, you might want to avoid that one. But for our case, I'm going to say number 1 is just fine. So number 1, we're going to act as if it is our background image. So I'm going to move to image number 2. So this will be the one that is right to the right of my subject. Now these steps are kind of similar to the previous steps that we've done. In this case, we are once again going to come to that select menu and we're going to choose all. And that's going to allow us to select all of our pixels. I'm going to then come to edit and I'm going to come to copy. Remember, you guys can use the shortcuts if you find that faster. I'm going to move to my background. So remember, number 1 was my chosen background. And I'm going to edit and paste, or Command V. Now we can see we have my background image, and then I'm going to label this number 2 just because when I look at the sequence, I'll be able to see. Now from here, we're going to once again come into those blend modes. I'm going to change from normal to difference, and we're going to see that this one was aligned a lot better. We see the shift in the trees, but that's because that wind was blowing and we could kind of see that in our actual images. So I'm not going to worry. But remember, if you don't have lines matching at this point, you want to make sure that you transform. You might want to nudge using your keys to make sure that you fit everything. From here, I'm going to go back from difference to normal. Now in this edit, because we have things that are lining up pretty close, it's actually very easy. We're not going to make a specific selection because when we make selections, sometimes we get some edging. And because everything should match up well, we're able to actually just use a really rough selection. So we're just going to come right into quick mask mode, and we're actually going to make our selection manually with this edit. We're going to come to our paintbrush. In this case, we're going to use kind of a brush around the relative size of what we're selecting, and we're actually going to change what is our hardness down to 0, and that's going to allow us to transition a little bit. So instead of drawing that really hard edge, it's going to allow us a gradual change from our quick mask to or from selected to non-selected. So I'm going to paint with black because that's going to create my quick mask, and I'm just going to kind of quickly come over here and just start to paint over. Now for this example, she does have a shadow. We want to make sure that we keep the shadow because it would be weird if one of the subjects had a shadow and the other one didn't. So we want to make sure that we keep those pieces consistent. So I'm just coming in, slowly clicking, painting over my entire subject to actually create my selection. So instead of using the quick selection brush, we're just doing a manual selection. And for this type of edit, it actually works a lot better because we're not worried about selecting hair. We shouldn't have a whole lot of shift. Okay? So we're going to come in here, we're going to paint until we are happy. And I'm painting a little bit extra over, and you can see that we have a little bit of a transition. We want to make sure that we're not missing anything. Once we're happy with our selection, we're going to switch out of our quick mask mode by clicking our quick mask on our toolbar. And we can see that we now have our marching ants back because what we were doing with our quick mask was actually creating our selection. Now I'm going to come to my move tool just so that way I don't start painting again. I'm going to come to layer 2 because that's the one that I'm working on. I'm going to come to the bottom of my layers panel, and that's going to be add my layer mask. I'm going to add that. And we can see, once again, it's done the opposite of what I want. It's actually hidden her. And the cool trick here is we took 2 pictures of 2 people, and now we actually removed them completely, and we have a landscape with no one in it. So it's a edit that works either way. We can come into our properties and click invert, or remember, we also have that shortcut Command I to allow us to invert. And so here I can see I have now added the second person to my chronological effect. If I realize I accidentally added too much or accidentally covered maybe something of her hand over here, that's why we have this layer mask here, because now we have the ability of going back and hiding and showing additional pieces. So we would just repeat those steps with image 3 and image 4 as well to create the final composite where we would have 1, 2, 3, and 4 people.